right. Beautiful summer morning in Dubai. I'm guessing somewhere around 35 degrees, 35 to 37 degrees out right now, even though the sun hasn't really come out yet. And somewhere between 80 to 90% humidity, for sure. But when you're inside in an air-conditioned car, it all looks good. I'm in my trusty 2020 Nissan Patrol Safari, affectionately called the Tida. If you know, you know. Tida is my daily, and she's up for the task. If you guys haven't checked out my review on this car, where I have a bit of an interesting, perhaps even slightly controversial take on what I think this car is, check it out. It's on my channel. It looks like it's foggy as hell, doesn't it? It's just this weird morning haze. Anyways, so what I want to talk about today is an article that I was reading recently that spoke about this invite-only event and to showcase, I guess you could call them concept cars, from Ford. And apparently, one of the cars that people seem to be talking about is a four-door Ford Mustang GT. What? I have been waiting for this car, and I kid you not, I have been thinking to myself, why the hell does Ford not have a four-door naturally aspirated V8 saloon? Why don't they? And I mean, surely who doesn't love that? And let me just take a couple of steps back. I am a sucker for four-door cars in that saloon sedan kind of body style. Part of that probably has to do with my childhood and the cars that my family members used to own and drive when I was a kid. But I always thought that a four-door sedan was cooler than a hatchback. SUVs had their own purpose. Crossovers didn't really exist, and thank goodness. You had those two-door coupes or sports cars, purpose-built, driving machines for enthusiasts. And a sedan was what a car was supposed to be. When I thought car, I used to think four-door sedan or saloon. And then when I started, seeing, these four-door super sedans, think your E34, E39 M5s, all of the earlier E and C class AMG cars, your E55s, your W204s, W205s. All of those cars were, in my opinion, some of the coolest cars that have ever been made and will ever be made, because they were cars, first and foremost, that served a purpose. They had, pretty awesome power plants and drivetrains that, appealed to that inner enthusiast. They were literally the definition of you can have your cake and eat it too. Someone who used to be wildly into cars and going around hooning around town, and then all of a sudden you're married, you've got kids, you've got responsibilities. That was one of the perfect cars for you, because they still retained a lot of the driving dynamics that, in my opinion, are kind of lost when you scale that car up to, let's say, the size of an SUV or a crossover. Things like the Urus, the Cayenne GT, they're insane in terms of what they can do from a driving dynamics perspective. But look, ultimately physics is physics, right? And even if you are able to mask that weight with all the tech in the world, I'm not necessarily sure if they could ever be called driver's cars. All right, I just said that. But a sedan, you could still theoretically do that, right? Because of the lower center of gravity, lower mass, again, just physics. So fast forward to me graduating from my college, starting to get a real job. I moved to the UAE back in 2013. So now is the chance. Now I can live my life. My life starts now. One of the first cars that I ever got, my second car here that I picked up brand new. That was really, I'm going to call it my first car, because that was when I could actually afford to get what I wanted. was a 2014 Dodge Charger SRT, straight from the showroom. I got a really good price, what I felt, especially when I compare it to today. Big honking four-door sedan. It had that 6.4 liter Hemi, and it was glorious. I could take my friends in it. I could take it to the drag strip. I could do so much with it, and it just felt right. Ever since then, and I'll talk more about these in future sort of series, I graduated to an F10 M5 again. And same kind of underlying recipe, different execution. Took a couple of steps back, went to a W204 C63 AMG. Again, four-door sedan. Absolutely loved that car. And over the past 5 or 6 years, I have been thinking to myself, man, if I wanted to buy a four-door sedan with a naturally aspirated V8, fuck having a manual transmission. Those days are gone, right? I'm okay with an auto or a dual clutch. But if I wanted a four-door naturally aspirated V8 sedan, what could I buy? Until about 5 or 6 years ago, the only options you had were the Charger lineup, the RT, the SRT, and of course the Hellcat variations, and the Lexus IS 500. Both of those cars are on their way out. The Charger is essentially going to be electrified. The IS 500, I believe, is still, you could still buy it, but it's a North America only kind of deal. We don't get it here. But those are the only two options. And I know a couple of years before that, Chevy used to make something called the SS, which was essentially a rebadged Holden. I thought, on paper it was pretty freaking amazing. Just looked like any old Hyundai or Daewoo. Even that you couldn't get in most places. That's why I'm making this video, because I really want to understand and know, am I one of the few people that still get the value and appeal of getting a four-door sedan with a naturally aspirated V8, basically akin to having your cake and eating it too? Or am I essentially the last of a dying breed? And that's when I started thinking, man, Ford makes so many freaking Mustangs. Coyote 5.0 is an impressive power plant, right? It's in some ways one of the great engines of the past decade, because it's mass produced, right? So parts are available. It's cheap. There's so many of them around. It makes good power. It's naturally aspirated. It's fairly reliable. Right? Not too much can go wrong with it. It's mod friendly. It revs fairly high. Sounds amazing. I mean, there's not much that's really wrong with that engine, apart from the fact that it's probably not very special, which you could argue it is, given that, there's not many naturally aspirated V8s around, so that just makes it special off the bat. So I was like, why would they not just put it in a four-door body, right? Even if it doesn't look like a Mustang, I'll take it. I honestly said that if Ford would make a four-door with a Coyote V8, even if it's in one of their regular body styles, unless they don't royally fuck it up for no reason, like making it front-wheel drive or something, that I would seriously consider going to the dealership and getting it. I can't believe that it might actually happen. I'll have to put my money where my mouth is. I might actually have to go and buy a Ford Mustang four-door, and you know what? I'm not gonna fucking regret it for a bit. It really is going to be the last of its kind. If they put a 6-speed manual in there, and then what they're gonna basically be doing is making a cult classic. Even if it's not a massive sales success, which I hope it is, because I know there's people like me, you guys out there, that will buy that car just to prove a point. I think it's gonna be a philosophical success. It'll be Ford sending a message to those people who are car enthusiasts and those that aren't. It'll be them sending a message to the industry at large saying, you know what, we still feel that there's value and merit in doing things the way they were. We still think that that age-old recipe of having a big-ass V8 that hasn't been neutered by forced induction, neutered from a sound and feel perspective at least, and you know, has enough space for you, your family, and your dogs, enough space for your bags. It's comfortable enough for daily use, but it let's just say dynamic enough for spirited use. That recipe still holds merit in today's day and age. It's going to be a collector's item, to be honest. I hope they don't make it like a limited run kind of thing, because then people like you and I can't really afford it. If they mass produce it, that'll be an even bigger middle finger. That's what I was thinking about when I saw that news. I'm hopeful, I'm praying that it is something that that they take seriously. Maybe we should all start a petition or something. Well, I'm gonna look into that, and if it's something that's feasible, you'll see a link in the description. If you don't see a link in the description, just know that I either tried to do it and was like, fuck this, or it was just too convoluted and messy to actually try. But someone out there who's a better man than I needs to figure out a way to petition Ford to release this 4-door Mustang and have us all sign it. That's what I wanted to say. This is going to be like a fun little exercise that I'm going to be doing. Like I said, I have a few other videos out right now. This channel is it's been a long time coming for me. First and foremost, it is a passion project. I am just in it for creating content that I feel strongly about in the format that I can make work at this point in time. Like many of you who are watching, I have been passionate. I don't know if that's the right word, but I've been obsessed with cars since as far back as I can imagine. One of the earliest childhood possessions that I had, it's a wooden box, I kid you not, a munitions storage box, because my dad was in the army, something that he just had that I'm sure he got from his place of work. I found it, I thought it was cool, and I just filled it up with all of his car magazine collections, the things that he'd read, and I would just go through them, read them, look at the comparison tests, you know, look at reviews. And this is since I was, what, 4 or 5 years old, right? So, you know, that's pretty early stages in my life. And since then, cars have always been my safe space. And my kind of intention with this is to, hopefully for this to be group therapy for all of us. Stick around, join the journey, be a part of it, support the channel. Let me know topics that you would want me to speak about, do some research on. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Cheers, and I shall see you on the next one. Peace.